Hey there, Pixies and Peeps! Thanks for tuning in again to the Purple Pixie, and welcome back to the Fairy Garden, which is what I call my craft room. My goal is to make magical DIYs, but you may think they're mishaps. Either way, I invite you to let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you're new here, I highly encourage you to join the Pixie Party by hitting subscribe and ringing my bell so you'll know every time I upload a video. Today's video is part of an open collaboration called the Prints and Patterns Challenge. It's hosted by Danielita AF and Savvy Crafts with Savannah. I'll leave their channel links and the playlist in the description box below. But we'll talk more about that later. Let's go ahead and jump right into project number 1, which is this Cheetah Sconce. A little while ago, I was highly blessed when a friend of mine gave me a big box full of these MDF board scraps. So like everything in my stash, I try to use it as much as possible. I'm going to be making a floating shelf sconce. Now, making a small floating shelf like this one may sound intimidating, but it's really not as hard as it seems. In fact, the method I use is actually quite easier than just gluing 2 pieces of board together and waiting for the glue to dry. And I don't know about you, but I've got a few other things to do in my life besides waiting around for glue to dry. So as you see, I placed the small board, which is going to be the shelf, onto the tall board, and using a drill bit the same size as my skewer stick, I drilled 2 holes and filled them with some wood glue. I inserted the skewer and then using my wire cutters, clipped them off about 3/4 of an inch in length. Then I take the small shelf and I butt it up against the dowels and mark my placement of where I need to drill the holes in that. You could use a ruler or even a level to make sure that it comes out straight, but I just eyeballed it. So I'm actually pretty impressed that it didn't come out as crooked as the Mississippi River. Make sure you drill deep enough that your dowels go all the way in. And then add some more wood glue, put the shelf in place, and hammer that baby down. And since you don't have to wait for the glue to dry, just move right on to painting the whole thing with 2 coats of black chalk paint. To add a hanger on the back, I'm using my pliers to hold this little picture frame hanger and some hot glue to hold it in place. Then I'll add the small nails later. And now I'm going to go all around the border of the sconce with these beautiful gold stickers that I got from the Dollar Tree. They look like they'd be about as easy as a preacher's daughter. No offense intended. But actually, you have to measure them just right and then cut them out just right. And when you're like me and your fingers just aren't as nimble as they used to be, they can actually give you a bit of a problem. So yeah, got a little stumped by some stickers. So let's move on to something that doesn't stump me easily. Decoupage. I have this empty and clean protein drink bottle, and I'm going to cover it with some of this leftover Cheetah Print wrapping paper that I have. Start with a good coat of Mod Podge because this is a slick surface, the paper's kind of thick, and it didn't want to stick very well. So once you get it on there, pounce over it with a good heaping of Mod Podge. When tearing your paper, make sure you cut it into odd shapes, and don't use scissors because you don't want a flat edge. You want it to look a little more natural. Try to tear less geometric shapes. Do some circles, sure, but also just randomly tear it wherever you think it looks good. You don't want all squares overlapping each other, but you do want some flat pieces that'll go around the edges. Then it's just a matter of repeating the process of laying a piece down and pouncing glue on top of it. Make sure there's glue underneath it too, or this won't stick at all. Once my bottle is completely dry, I went around the top and the bottom edges with some more of those sticky gems. Yeah, you don't want to see that. because the board was hard enough. Can you imagine me trying to get it around a curved surface? Now, if you want to see how I made this flower out of a gold foil cupcake liner, stay tuned and I'll show you how I did it. In a couple more videos from now, that is, because that's going to be part of another collab I'm taking part of called the Bloom with Creativity. Now, even though that flower is quite pretty by itself, it just needed a little bit of embellishment. So I cut a few pieces of my black tool, scrunched it up in the middle like I was using deco mesh to make a wreath or something, tied it off, and then just trimmed the edges and put another one of those sticker gems right in the middle. Of course, you can put whatever kind of florals or anything you want in your sconce, but I wanted to keep mine simplistic and just go with one flower. Leave me a comment down below and let me know how you would have decorated yours. Meanwhile, this is how mine turned out. Even as simple as it is, I think it's absolutely stunning. So as promised, let me tell you more about this collab. It's called the Prints and Patterns Challenge, and it's hosted by Danielita AF and Savvy Crafts with Savannah. Both of these women are amazingly talented at what they do, so I will leave their channel links and the playlists in the description box below. But I also want to let you know that I am doing a giveaway, so stay tuned, because right now we're jumping into project number 2, the Honeybee Bow Hanger. For this project, I'm going to be using another piece of that MDF board that I was given, and in order to paint it, I'm laying it down on this backing that came off of a big piece of contact paper. Makes it a lot easier to throw it away rather than have to clean your mat. And since I'm on a pretty tight budget, and I hate cleaning things, I like to repurpose as much as I can. Now I'm giving this MDF board a few good coats of my yellow acrylic paint. I could have sped up the process and made my own yellow chalk paint, but that's for another video at another time. I decided that in order to make this hang on the wall, I was going to drill 2 holes in the back of the board. But I don't want to go completely through the board on accident, so I'm taking some painter's tape and I'm marking off my drill bit so I know exactly how deep I want it to go. Put that in my drill, tightened it up as much as I could, and then proceeded to drill my holes where I had marked it on the board. Once your drill bit gets down to the painter's tape, stop. Then just drill another hole on the other side of the board, and you're all done. It seriously couldn't be any easier. Oh goodness, here we go with the bad jokes again. Next up, I wanted to make a stencil, but I don't have any stencil vinyl, so I'm just using a color that, well, I never used for anything else. To be honest, I've never stenciled before with vinyl, and I usually would have just made a decal. However, I'm out of black vinyl, so I'm going to have to try and stencil this on there. Shouldn't be too hard since I have pretty extensive experience with vinyl, right? So I take a brand new piece of clear contact paper. That's what I use for transfer tape. And I lay the entire thing over the entire piece of vinyl so I can transfer my stencil onto the MDF board. Now at first, I couldn't even get the corner to peel up. So once I found a corner that would peel up and I started to remove the paper backing from my vinyl, I was still having issues with getting the vinyl to stick to the transfer tape. By the way, it may look like I'm trying to do this with a mechanical pencil, but I'm not. That's my homemade pen. It was once a mechanical pencil, but I took all the lead out and replaced it with a straight pen. And that's what I use to weed my vinyl. Now, if you ever run across this problem where your vinyl won't release from the paper backing, it's probably because you use too much pressure when you cut it out on your machine. But if you take your weeding tool and go in and right behind the vinyl in between the paper, you can gently peel it off of there and it'll stick to your transfer tape. I hope this close-up view makes it a little clearer. You see how I'm taking my weeding tool and I'm just gently going in between the vinyl and the paper backing just to release the vinyl from the paper backing. I then stick the vinyl onto the transfer tape and peel away the backing. Sheesh, how many times am I gonna say backing? Okay, now I have to get this big stencil onto the MDF board without getting any wrinkles in it. Well, that was fairly easy, but now I'm going to be reminded about how tacky a brand new piece of contact paper is. I ain't even gonna lie, the struggle was real. Between me, the vinyl, or the contact paper, one of us wasn't doing our jobs the way we were supposed to. And I ended up using all my might to release that contact paper from the vinyl. Just watch how hard I have to pull at it just to get it off. But I did finally get it, and I continued to burnish it down even further with my little burnishing tool. And now I'm going to go in with my round sponge brush and stipple on the black paint. It just occurred to me that this vinyl does look black here on camera, but it's actually a really dark green. Now for the grand reveal, I cross my fingers and start peeling off the vinyl. Can you believe it? I didn't have any bleed through. The only parts that messed up were when I was trying to weed the vinyl out of the bee and I accidentally got some black paint on the yellow surface. But I was able to go in with some more yellow acrylic paint and touch those little spots up. So how are we going to hang our bows from this bow board? Well, I'm going to cut 1-inch strips of some black felt and some yellow felt. And then we'll just staple them to the bottom of the MDF board. You'll see me cut 3 pieces of each, but I ended up only using 3 pieces of black and 2 pieces of yellow. So what kind of animal prints do you like to incorporate into your decor? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. Bees are pretty popular this year. However, it doesn't match anything in my house. But I am thinking of making a kind of bee-themed wreath for my front door. I love the vibrant contrast of yellow and black. I think the colors really pop. However, I don't want to see it around my house all the time. I'm more of a shabby chic girl. I like decorating in neutral tones and things like beige and light blues and so forth. So black and yellow really just doesn't fit in. Now I'm using my staple gun to staple the strips onto the bottom of the MDF board. By the way, do you see where the holes are that I drilled in the back of the board to hang it on the wall? Yep, you guessed it. I put this all on upside down. So I'm going to have to make a hanger for it anyway. I just dovetail the ends of the felt strips, fold them in half, and cut them at an angle. As for the hanger I now have to put on the board, I just took some black and yellow yarn, braided it, and tied it in a knot. The plan is to use the staple gun again to hold the yarn in place. But apparently, I haven't used my staple gun in so long that I don't know how to line it up. This was supposed to be a really easy project, and it ended up being a little bit more difficult than I thought. And even though I overshot with the staple gun, I was still able to fix it. It just took me a little longer than I'd expected. Now let's see if I learn from my mistake on the other side whenever I go to staple the yarn on this side. And nope, apparently you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And trust me, I am an old dog. Heck, I'm an old human. Let's not even get into how old I am in dog years. Okay, so I decided to tie the yarn in a knot around one of the staples that I did semi-get in the right spot. But as for the other side, those staples needed to be completely removed and replaced. Now, let's see how hard I have to struggle to get the staples out of the MDF board. Remember how hard I had to pull on that contact paper? Yeah, well, same story here. I twisted, I turned, I pulled. It slipped, it stayed, it was not coming out. So I finally threw some pixie dust on it, and bam, it came right out. If you want to see me struggle with this other end, stay tuned to the end of the video for the blooper reel. But for now, I'm going to make a bee using this little silicone mold that I got a long time ago at, I think, Michael's. I just take some Elmer's school glue, and you put it in the mold and let it dry. Now I did have to refill it a few times because each time it dried, of course the glue would shrink up and it would need another layer in order to make it more three-dimensional. But once I popped it out, all I had to do was go over it with some yellow and black paint markers and it was all done. It came out so cute too. Look! Aww. I have since made more, but at the time that I filmed this video, I only had the one, so I put it on one of the yellow strips of felt. This whole project is turning out to be so cute. It's sweeter than honey and really is the bee's knees. Okay, I'm getting too far in with all these bee puns. Let's move on to project number 3, the Pegboard jewelry hanger. If you liked the first project, then you're going to like this one too because it's also cheetah print. I had this piece of pegboard, a 5x7 frame, and a scrap piece of felt that kind of had a pink tinged cheetah print. Using my jigsaw, I cut my pegboard down to size to fit inside the 5x7 frame, and now I'm going to cut down the felt to fit on the pegboard. I need this felt to be really stiff after it's glued onto the pegboard. So I'm going to use this Gorilla Wood glue, and on top of an old Amazon bag, so that I don't make a mess all over my mat, I'm going to squeeze on a good amount and just spread it out with my fingers. Make sure you get the edges really good. And since this felt soaks up glue like I do coffee, it's just as well to go in and give it a second heavy dose. Just like me and coffee. I always need at least 2 cups to function. Now just put it back in the frame and set it aside to dry for a, well, really long time. And you'll see why in a minute. Once it finally was dry, I went in with another coat of wood glue and smothered it all over the top of the felt. Like I said, I want this felt to be very, very stiff because we're going to drill holes through it through the pegboard. And if you want to see what happens when you try to drill holes through it before it's stiff enough, again, check out the blooper reel at the end of this video. Now here's a cute little tip for cleaning up glue or even paint in tight edges. Wrap a wet paper towel, or like I did here, a baby wipe, and use the tip end of a paintbrush to go in around small areas and wipe off the excess glue or paint. Okay, so now we have these little dowels. These were also given to me along with all those pieces of MDF board. But I need to paint them black to put them through the holes at the bottom of the pegboard so that we'll have something to hang necklaces and bracelets and such on. The easiest way to paint them that I have found is to lay down a little piece of tape, put your dowels on top of the tape and paint them. Then when they're dry, turn them over and paint the other side. What are some of the easiest ways you have found to store jewelry? Let me know in the comments down below. Now that it is hours later and the glue is completely dried on this felt, I'm going to go in from the back with my drill bit that fits through the holes in the pegboard and drill the holes out through the felt in the front. A little secret about me, I love using power tools. It may be a little inconveniencing to have to pull them out when you need them, but if a project calls for it, then it's usually really worth the effort. By the time I went to put my dowels in this board, I had lost one of them. But since I filmed this, I have found it, and I have added it to the board. But here you'll see me putting 4 dowels in the bottom row of the pegboard. I'm just going to tap them into place and make sure they are flush on the back, and then cover that part with a piece of a craft stick. This will make sure they stay in place and don't come popping out whenever you remove your bracelets or necklaces off of the pegs. So, in order to make this pegboard stand off from the wall a little bit so you can insert your earring hooks, I'm going to use these regular sized tumbling tower blocks. And man, do they smell good when you open that box. Oh, it smells like a fresh lumber yard. Look, oh. Can you smell it? Oh, yeah. It smells good, doesn't it? I can't help it, y'all. I love to smell some weird stuff. Like air conditioner units that are turned on for the first time of the year. Or a propane grill as it's getting fired up. Heck, I even like the smell of an exhaust from a car. Sheesh, come to think of it, maybe that's what's wrong with me. Okay, so you may have noticed that I glued down a piece of yarn on each end of the frame, and now I'm gluing the tumbling tower blocks on top of the yarn, and once I have the block at the bottom, I paint the whole thing black. So are you ready to see how they all turned out? Good, because here's the final reveal. And now, are you ready for that giveaway? Well, if so, here's what you need to do. To enter, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and like this video. Then comment below which of these projects you would like to win. A winner for each project will be chosen at random on Saturday, April 24th, and I will notify you if you win by replying to your comment below. You'll have 7 days to email me your shipping address, but if I don't hear from you after 7 days, another winner will be chosen. And that's it. Good luck, everybody. Well, that's it for this video. Again, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like what you saw. Give me a big thumbs up and go ahead and ring my bell and hit all so you'll know every time I upload a video. I'd sure love to include you in the Pixie Party. And if you're already a part of the Pixie Party, again, I want to tell you how thankful I am for your friendship and support in helping my channel grow. You really mean a lot to me, and without you, I would not be here. And with all that being said, I'll leave you with this. We all have potential. It's what you do with yours that matters. Again, I want to thank you so much for watching. Please have a blessed day, and remember that all of me loves all of you.